was quite a while ago that I published a video on YouTube called How to Update an Excel Sheet from Microsoft Flow. And it was just a few days ago, I got a comment under that video saying, hey, dude, it was supposed to be updating an Excel sheet or Excel table, but you actually didn't cover that. All you covered was to connect to an Excel table from Power Automate and insert a record. What is the update? And I looked at that video, I say, yep, that's right. So today is the day that I want to go through updating a record inside an Excel table from Power Automate. As much as I typically say it's easy to do when it comes to working with Excel and Power Automate, especially when it goes to update, there are so many odd situations that it makes it actually a little bit more complicated than saying it's easy to do. So today I want to go through quite a few of those weird scenarios. So basically what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to create an Excel sheet and I want to update the unit price of the products in an Excel sheet, and I want to add 10% to the unit price of the products that their price is above $100. Sounds complex enough? Let's do it. Okay, we start by creating a table in Excel. I created this range of content with ID, product name, and the unit price, and I converted it to the table. So I selected all of that, click on the format as table, and that's it. Now, if you go to the design view, you will see that I also gave this table a name called product sample. Great. So I just save it so that I can work with it. I upload it to SharePoint. Inside SharePoint, I created a library called demolib, and I want to upload this file called product sample to SharePoint. Let me just click on it, make sure we uploaded the right file. Perfect. So let me close this and we go back to Power Automate and start our work. We start by creating a flow that I'm going to fire it as instant flow, and I call it update Excel file v2. And I select manually trigger a flow and I click on create. So the flow is created. Let's start by updating one record first. So I go back to my Excel, and inside my Excel sheet, for example, the price tag of polo t-shirt, that the ID is 5. Let me go back to flow. Now we need to create an action that updates an Excel row. So under Excel, I pick up update row. I need the URL of this site, not the whole URL. Just make sure you pick the URL of the site. Excel actions are not that smart to trim it to the site URL. So I can scroll down and I click on enter custom value, and I just paste the URL here. We are all good. And then on the document library, I pick up demolib. The file that I need to pick is product sample, and the table is going to be product sample that we created inside the Excel sheet. This is the moment that the update a row action is asking you which row you want to update. Of course, I can pick any field, and in this one I pick the ID, and I need to say which row based on the key column is supposed to be updated. If you take a look at this Excel sheet that we have here, you see I have, for example, ID 5. So polo t-shirt, let me change the price to something like, for example, $50. So inside flow, when the ID is 5, set the unit price to 50. And that's all. I click on save, and let's run a test. I click on continue, run flow, and done. Apparently it's successful. Let's go back to our Excel sheet and see. The polo shirt has been updated to $50. So far, so good. Now, the main question is that, okay, what if this ID is not unique? So, for example, I want to update something that the ID is 3, and I also pick, for example, jacket, and the ID is 3. So now, if I ask Flow to go to Excel and update the rows that the ID is 3, what do you expect? What I was expecting was either to go there and update both of them, or throw an error that this value is not unique, so I cannot really locate a unique record for this. Let's see how Flow reacts to it. So I need to update the record with the ID 3. I go back to my Power Automate, I go on Edit, and this time the key value is 3, and I want to set the unit price to $5.77, for example. Let me just save it and run another test. Save and test, run flow, done. Completed successfully, all green icons. Let's go there and see what we got. How do you like this? Top is updated to $5.77. Jacket did not change. Let me just refresh it just to assure you that it's not my mistake, or I'm not waiting for any update. So you see, top is updated, jacket is not. Fantastic. The most unexpected answer. So that's your responsibility to make sure that the ID is unique. I would say if there is only one thing that you want to pick up from this video is this. Make sure you have a unique ID in case you decide to update tables in Excel from Power Automate. And if you don't do that, you're dealing with some data inconsistency that doesn't return you any error. Completely silent. So let's fix the thing and continue. Now, the next thing that I want to do, I want to add something to every product that the unit price is above 100, for example, like 10% to the unit price of anything that is above $100. First, I need to pick up everything that has the value of above $100. For this, I go back to Flow. And if you're already familiar with OData, you know most probably I want to use OData and capture only those few records that they fit my criteria. So right before update, I need to add an action. And again, I go to Excel. And this time, I want to list rows present in a table. When I do that exactly the same way, except for the fact that this time I really don't need to use the URL, because if I use it once, I have it in the list, SharePoint site, Flow course, and I pick up the document library, which is demo.lib. I pick up the same file, and for the table, there is only product sample. Here, if I run this, it will return all the rows, which I don't really need. While I have something called filter query, using OData, I can pick up the rows that they have my criteria for any item that unit price is above 100. Great. If you're not familiar with OData, I already have another video on YouTube about OData and using it in Power Automate. I've put the link right on the top of the page, and you can look it up and take a look later. At the moment, I don't want you to interrupt this and go with that. And you will know in a minute. I put a filter query, and the filter query is going to be unit price greater than 100. Great. I click on save, and let's test it. Save and test. Run flow, done. Great. We got an error. So here is the funny part. Invalid filter clause, which basically means that, guys, we know that GT or greater than is a valid OData statement. But sorry, we only support equal to, not equal to, contains, start with, and end with. That's it. It's currently supported. Hopefully in the future we will get more. Okay, so for this one, using the OData, we are out of luck. What is the answer for this? You know what? Forget about it. We don't need this. There is no other way. We have to bring all the records here. So let's filter it after we bring it here. So we come here. I just add an action. Oh, by the way, in the same table, in the same list rows present in table, if I use the filter query and I put something like equals to, it perfectly works. Regardless, that's not going to solve our problem. We read all the values in the table, and we need to filter them here using data operations. And I need to use filter array. Of course, the list of rows is an array, so if I get the values from the returned items, I have an array. And this is the value that I get from list rows present in a table. Let me just pick it up, and now I can put my filter criteria. Filter criteria, now it's very easy because now I need to have unit price is greater than, for example, 100. Great. Let me just save it and see if this filter array does the job and I get the two items, I mean this one and this one, that the unit price is above 100. So let's run it. Save, test, save and test, and run flow, done. Great. Another error, which brings us to another weird behavior, not from filter array, but from Excel. And here is the reason. There's a type mismatch. The number that we added here as 100 is considered as integer, while what we get from Excel is a string. No surprise, Excel does not have data types. Now, what is the solution? Again, we need to write an expression, convert this unit price to a number, and then we compare it with the number that we have. If that's the case, let's go for it. By the way, if you're not familiar with flow expressions, I have a Udemy course on flow expressions that, again, I will put the link right on the top. Take a look if you're interested in dealing with complex expressions. To write expression, I click on here and I click on expression. Now I need to use the mathematical functions that if you just scroll down, you will find it here. And the function that I want to use is called float, because it's a currency regardless. And then while the cursor is right here, I click on dynamic content. And again, we don't have anything here. So for that, again, I go back to expression and I need to use the item function that picks up the current row of the array, which is being processed, and I need the unit price of that. So basically, we got the current item unit price, and we casted it to float. Now we can compare it with this. Again, dealing with Excel is not very straightforward. Fantastic. Hopefully this time it works. Let me just save it, and I click on test. Save and test. Run the flow. Done. This time I see success, but let's see what we got under filter array. Let's see. We got product number 3, which is the top. Unit price is this. Fantastic. And we got the jacket, which has this unit price. Exactly the same 2 items that they have the unit price of above 100. So far, so good. So we got the items that we want to update. Great. Now we need to navigate through every single item and run the update after that. After you got whatever you want from the filter array, now there are 2 ways to work with it. So first of all, before we run the flow, flow does not have a clue of what comes out of this filter array. So if you want to access the output from the filter array visually, we need to make it visual. If I come here, for example, if I want to add, for example, the key value here from the filter array, you do not find anything here because filter array does not have it. For example, if I look for ID, you will find ID under list rows present in a table, but you will not find it under filter array, although it has it. But before runtime, flow does not have a clue of where it is. So there are 2 ways ahead of you. First of all my expression freak friends, you can write expressions and extract it from the JSON that this filter array returns, which is not for this video. The second way is that we get the JSON output from this filter array and parse it to something more visual that we can play with. Let's see how I do it. I just run another test, save and test, and click on run flow. Done. So if I scroll down, this is the output that filter array produces. I copy it and keep it in my clipboard. Then I go to edit. Now I have a sample of the return values of this filter array. Then I use another action called Parse JSON. And if I click on the Parse JSON, it says, hey, what do you want me to get the content from? I say, okay, get it from the filter array from body. And this guy say, okay, what is the schema for this? Okay, generate from sample. Sample is what we put in the clipboard. So basically the output that we got after the first runtime from filter array. So I just paste it here, click on done, and it generated the schema. Now, what happens now, the output from Parse JSON, based on the sample data, knows what fields we have on the filter array. So now, if I go to update, and I pick the ID, I have this ID from Parse JSON, which is actually the ID of the values from the filter array. And actually, those are the items that have the unit price of above 100. So if this is the case, let me just add the ID here, the ID from Parse JSON, which is the filtered value. Because it's an array, as soon as I add this, it puts it inside and apply to each. And that's fantastic because right after that, I can pick the unit price from the source and add it here. Now, we were not supposed to get the unit price and reassign it. We were supposed to add 10% to the unit price and reassign it to the field. So we logically need to take it out and put the cursor here, go to expression and say multiply 1.1 by, and then we were supposed to go back here to dynamic content and pick up unit price under Parse JSON. But we don't see it here. That's another problem. Sometimes I call it a bug, sometimes I call it, okay, they are trying to simplify it too much, but this is one of those times that flow acts weird. I actually have another video that shows you this behavior and how to go around it, but that trick does not work when it comes to expressions. So logically, I should say, if you cast it to float and I'm looking for a string, I should be able to see it. But again, sometimes it acts silly and you don't see it. Now, here is the trick to go around it. Now, let me click on the dynamic content again. So it's going to show me everything. So I just reassign the unit price. So far, I get the unit price from Parse JSON and just assign it to the OData row. Fantastic. If I just can get this value and multiply it by 1.1, I'm done. So here is the hack. I save it and I click on this 3 dots here and I go peak code. Remember the field that I was looking for was unit price. So if I scroll down under the fields that I have item unit price, that this one is the value. Just remember, exclude this @ sign. Just use everything that comes after that. So it goes under items that they are coming from, apply to each, and picks the unit price. Right click, copy, and this is the unit price that we want to add. Great. Once we are done, I don't need this one anymore. I go to expressions and I comfortably write my multiply function. So multiply 1.1 comma float, because what I'm getting is a string, and I just copy and paste it here. Let me put it in Notepad so that you can see it. Notepad and here. So multiply 1.1 by float of this string that I just stole it from peak code. Done. We go back here, click on OK, and now I have an expression. I save it, and it's time to test. But before that, I go back to my file because I want to remember the values. So let me just write the numbers here. 577 was this number. The other one was 459.99. So these numbers should be added by 10% inside the table. Great. So let's go and test it. Test. I'll perform the trigger action, test, and the run flow. Done. It's an apply to each, so it takes a while to execute. Ta-da! Now let's go back here, and you see each one of them has added 10%. How do you like it? I don't know about you, but I am tired. That was a lot to cover. Anyway, I try to cover as much as I possibly can when it comes to weird behaviors when it comes to working with Power Automate and Excel. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Till next video, stay safe.